my goodness. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. This is going to be such a good day. And by the way, for those of you who are joining us, if you are a guest today, welcome to the community. We are so excited that you're here. This is our CORE90 training. We call it CORE90 because C-O-R-E means concepts of real estate. And we go for 90 minutes. So you guys strap in. You're about to have your mind blown today. And speaking of mind, today is a mindset coaching from one of the top coaches, one of my coaches in the real estate industry, John K. Sellers. Coach John K. Sellers is in the house, and he's agreed to give us his time today to bring all of us some unbelievable mindset training. And how many people, by the way, I want you guys to engage really quickly with me since we're just getting started. We got 38 people in the room. I'd like to see that number get a little bit hotter. Invite a friend who's not here right now who needs this. But listen, if you know that your mindset impacts your results, if you know that your mindset impacts your results, hit me up with a me in the chat. I'm going to start. Boom, me. I know that one. Hit me up with a me in the chat. Come on. Allie, Nancy, Jonathan, Jessica, Mackenzie. Oh my goodness. Jay Ryan, Sabrina, Deborah, Joe, Michelle McCormick. What's up, girl? Brand new to the community. I love it. Absolutely. We all know Tara, Linda, JJ. Thank you. Tamara, I'm sorry. We all know that our mindset impacts our results. So why don't we focus on it more? Today is your opportunity. All right. Today's your opportunity and to learn from one of the best. John, thank you for being here today and for spending your time with these amazing folks.
Well, hey, man, I am just to tell you guys, I am super honored. I'm humbled that you're taking the time today on the beginning of the year, that this week that you're taking 90 minutes to let me share with you. And I just want to thank you for that ahead of time, that it's been an honor to get to study some of this stuff and to put it all together. You know, one of the things when you teach, you have to learn. And it reminds me of all the things that I've done. And so I encourage everybody, you know, on this call, part of the community is y'all have something you can teach. And we all worry that we don't. And guess what? I'm nervous. You know, do I bring enough good stuff? But when you go through it, you remind yourself of all the things that you've learned. And it's actually almost a better exercise for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to share this screen. You know, it's funny, Jeff talked about mindset and he talked about, you know, millionaire, right? And yes, we're going to talk about money, but we're really talking about most of the time money comes when the mind is right. So let's jump into this. And most of you know who I am. I'll make a little movement here on this screen. Just got to get this right. Let's move this around. Okay. And I'm so proud of myself, you guys. I've never used Canva before, and I created the whole presentation with Canva. You know, I'm calling all over the world. My daughter's in Panama right now. I'm calling her, how do I do this? And she goes, why do you get the extra? Why'd you buy it, Dad? Why don't you get the free one? Well, I got to get better pictures. So some of them will be fun stuff, but just know that this presentation, I learned Canva. So what do you know? So let's talk about who I am, guys. You know, I'm 59 years old. I'm a husband to Jill, my lovely wife. Many of you have met her. I've been married now for a little over 31 years, which blows my mind. She's put up with me that long. I've got 3 kids, Jacqueline, Zach, and Sophia. You know, I'm a lover of people. I just love people, man. I just find people fascinating and the things about their lives and what they're doing and the potential that we all have. And then the other is, you know, I'm an adventurer, guys. You see my passions are surfing and, you know, golfing, and this was a fun one in Mexico of these machines run fast, scared the crap out of me. And I'm a voracious reader and self-help guy. So that's kind of it. So let's talk about what my goals are today. What my hope is, let's say. My hope is that you're going to be inspired, motivated, entertained, challenged, educated, and if I'm lucky, I will stroke a chord deep in a few of you that will be a catalyst for real change or transformation in your life. One of the things I've learned, guys, is that when we're aware and we touch in, we don't know where we're going to get touched that can make a major change in our lives. And if I was to raise hands, people would say, there was one point where somebody said something that just clicked with them. And it may help them to realize where they could move and where they could change. And oftentimes, sometimes it's the big speaker. Sometimes it's just somebody on the street you meet. And you get into that conversation, they go, wow. I learned so much this last year from a 74-year-old guy in Mexico surfing with every morning. And he transformed things about the way I thought and the way life could be. That here he is 74 surfing every single day. Is that cool? So let's get into it. I got to move this around again. You know, in the promotion, I was described as a multimillionaire. And, you know, with the help of many people and good fortune, I've created 2 semi-passive residual incomes in the last 10 years, guys. I'll tell you that story, but that together create a net income stream of over $250,000 a year. And they require less than 10 to 15 hours a week of required work. Now, I say required. Does that mean I work more? Yeah, a lot of times, because I like what I'm doing. But it allows me to have freedom to go away and do whatever I want to do and to do it wherever I want. And that's something that was a real big dream for me. So, is wealth or income what I'm most proud of it? Or does it automatically make me better, smarter, or happier than anyone else that has not gotten there yet? The answer is no, not in the least, you guys. You see, I don't measure millionaire or wealthy status on money alone. How many of you guys know people that have a ton of money and they're just miserable? If you don't, you need to meet more millionaires. Because I know a lot of folks that are empty. They've chased money their whole lives, and you know, they've got broken relationships and they've got all kinds of health problems. So let's dig in here. You know, who cares about money if you're in terrible health and you can't enjoy it? So many people are unhealthy in their 50s, 60s, and 70s say, I'd give all my money away if I could just be healthy again. Who cares if you have all the money, but you've got terrible relationship with your spouse or your partner? If you have unhealthy relationships with your kids. I just was talking to a friend of mine yesterday and about this presentation. He came into my office, so he got to hear a lot of my spiel, and we were talking about, he's like, one of his son's grandfathers is, you know, 75, has all the money in the world. And now it's like, he's disowned his sons. He doesn't have anything to do with his grandkids. And it's like, how empty is that? And he said, and he's actually said to Jesse, what was the point of all the work I did, all the things I did, because I'm just alone. You know, if you don't like yourself, who cares if you've got all the money and you've got drug habits or you've got alcohol issues or other emotional issues? If you have a healthy relationship with your friends and extended family. You know, I looked today and I did a call a year ago, guys. It was a year ago, December 22nd. And it was on, I don't know what it was on, Life, whatever. And I just talked about change. You better expect change to happen. It's going to happen no matter what. It's a guarantee. And as that came in, I said, hold on for a second, guys. Because my wife was at the door of this office. My wife never comes to this office. And I said, just stop for a second. And she walked in. My father had been at the hospital at that point. And my wife comes in crying. And I said, stop, guys. I don't know what's happened, but something's changed. I got to go. And many of you know this. She walked in and I expected her to tell me my father passed away. And she came in, no, and said, your mother passed away. And 2 weeks later, my father died. And this was, you know, my father's January 6th will be a year for my dad. So, you know, who cares if you have all the money, but you didn't have good relationships? Luckily, I was so blessed that I lived around the corner from my mom and dad for 10 years. There was nothing that was unsaid with them. Has it been a struggle this year? Yeah. Has it been hard? Yeah. But there's no regret. So, and what else if you got all the money, but you're stressed out all the time? If you have no peace in your life. So these are some of the things that money's important, guys. It makes the world easier. And you know, when I grew up, my parents, my grandparents, especially, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and my parents. We came from very humble backgrounds. My father never made more than $40,000 a year. My grandparents were, you know, uneducated, great people, but they had this belief that if you had money, you were bad. You know, rich people are unhappy. And we'll talk about some mindsets. That's something I've really had to overcome. It's taken me a lot of years to realize things about business and the things about how money works and the world works, because I wasn't taught that. What I was taught was a lot about love. I was taught a lot about caring for your family. I was taught a lot about hard work. But you know what? My dad worked really hard for a lot of years. and struggled for a lot of years. So I realized hard work wasn't the only answer. There's got to be more. So money is fleeting. You heard this before? Because no matter what you do, sometimes it's going to disappear. And some of you know my story in that, in 2008, yeah, I was a millionaire then. And I didn't follow some things that I knew I needed to do. My ego got in the way. I didn't follow my heart. And I lost everything. But more than that, what I did was I lost hope and I lost my mind. I couldn't get out of bed for 3 or 4 months. I was on drugs. I didn't drink, or I'm not a drinker and I'm not a drug guy, but guess what? I mean, in terms of all the marijuana, all the other stuff, right? No problem for people that are, just a matter of that's not my thing. But the deal was I had to go on anti-anxiety medicines. Just going out in front of people freaked me out, which nobody could imagine that's who I am now, or I was before. And there was a point where my wife actually said, I can't deal with you. Now, luckily I poured in enough to my wife that she stuck with me. But she said, I can't deal with this anymore. We're moving back to Oregon I'm moving back to Oregon with the kids because I got to be around your parents. And whether you come or not, I'm going. Can you imagine that, guys, at 46? Starting over from scratch. This is the middle of 2009 into Medford, Oregon, where the real estate market was as bad in Arizona, here as it was in Arizona. And yet somehow we've been blessed beyond that. And a lot of things came together and she's still here with me. So, we talk about juggling life. Have you ever heard that analogy before about you've got all these balls in your life? You've got your health, you've got your relationships, you've got your kids, you've got money, and then you've got long-term things, you've got your career, and you're juggling these balls. But what I want you to remember, and I've learned, is some of these balls are more resilient than others. And what do I mean by that? If you drop this ball that's your relationship with your spouse too many times, it's a glass ball. It's just going to break. My buddy yesterday, we were talking, he says, it's kind of like a water balloon. Maybe not a glass ball, John, because it might bounce once or twice. But when it breaks, it breaks. What are we doing with our kids? That breaks our relationships. He says, but money's one that'll actually bounce back. And I'm living proof of that. And so many of my friends that are wealthy financially, they've lost it all before and got it all back because they had the mindsets were right. And money can be out of your control with economy and all the things. So as we talk about this, I'm going to talk about the balls in your life and what are you doing to keep them rolling, and what respect are you giving all of them? I love this. Mindset is everything. We all have stories about ourselves. I'm not tall enough. This isn't going to make it work. Or if you know me, I'm too tall. This doesn't make it work. Or I don't look a certain way, or I'm not skinny enough. And I got to tell you, in the real estate world, I just love it because it doesn't matter where you came from, what you look like, it's your mindset. Have we all seen that? You're like, how is that person a superstar in real estate? You wouldn't imagine they are from the way they look or the way they act, but they are driven. They have the mindset to win. So I wanted something quick on money. I saw this on TikTok the other day, and I don't watch a lot of TikTok, but I saw this and I thought it was great. How people look at money. How do the poor people look at money? They typically look at money as just a way to get enough to pay their bills. That's all they're thinking about is, how do I get enough to pay my bills? And once they get their bills, they go drink another beer. Okay? Maybe. Who knows, right? The middle class, money is to buy things on credit, to pay off over time, to look good to other people. It's not always true, guys, but there's a lot of truth in that. That it's about How do I get the bigger house? How do I get the bigger car? How do I pay this stuff off? It's today oriented and it's often visually oriented. It's outward focused. The other is when you look at the wealthy, they're trying to, money is a tool. They're trying to figure out how to make enough money to make that money keep making money. How do I always say you don't want to own a, you don't want to own a bunny, you want to own a bunny farm, right? So a farm that's growing. We talk about that with real estate, right? The beauty is when you own a real estate, you own a rental property, you know what? The money keeps coming in every month, the rent, whether you do anything or not. Did it take some money to get it? Did it take some education? Yes. But I got to tell you, and a lot of our money has been created through rental properties, guys. Got a pretty decent sized portfolio that one I had before and lost much of it, sold some of it, but I didn't have the right mindset then of understanding cash flow. It wasn't about net worth, it was about cash flow. I love this. The first step towards change is awareness. What is, there's so many things on my screen, Jeff, I got to move around. The second step is this acceptance. Now, I'd like to do a little exercise with you guys, and this is something that I think will be helpful. It's a cross between Jarek Robbins and Tony that I've learned. And I'd like you to take a couple minutes, and if you'd be so kind and play along with me, that you'd close your eyes and do this exercise. What I found is that when we can close our eyes and actually go someplace, something becomes more impactful to us. And this will take us about 5 minutes at the most. So if you'd work through with me, guys, close your eyes, and I want you to think about your physical health. In your physical health, if you're to stay on the same path you are on now and don't make any changes you know or feel you need to make, where are you going to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? I want you to really think about that. Where are you going to be if you don't make those changes? What about your relationships? If you stay on that same path, I'm supposed to have really good music behind this, but I don't. And now you don't make the changes that you need to make. Where are you going to be in 1, 5, 10 years? Think about your career. If you stay on the same path, keep doing the same things that you're doing, not making the changes you need to make, where are you going to be in 1, 5, or 10 years? Think about your finances. If you stay on the same path now and you don't make the changes you know you need to feel, where are you going to be in 1, 5, or 10 years? For some of you, you may feel really good about all 4 of these. I hope you do. But I would bet for most of us, there's one of those that we know needs to change. Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Now let's go a little bit deeper, guys. And I want you to use your imagination, because our lives are created in our imagination. Believe it or not. And we're going to get a little more into that. So think about your physical health. If you were to make some of the changes you already are aware or know in your heart that need to happen, where could you be in 1, 5, or 10 years? Think about your relationships. I mean, relationships are evolving. You always have to change if you want to grow, especially if you're married. Where could you be if you were to make the changes you're already aware of in your heart that need to happen? Where could you be in 1, 5, or 10 years? Think about your career. Careers change overnight, guys, but most of the time they happen over a period of time. There's a great saying that says, we almost always overestimate what we can do in a short amount of time, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 and 10 years. So if you were to make the change in your career that you're already aware of or know in your heart need to happen, where could you be in 1, 5, or 10 years? Really think about that. Now think about your finances. Some of us are in a great spot with finances. Some of us are in despair right now. Some of us are just getting by. But do you need to make changes? So if you were to make the changes you already know about, that your heart you need to know, you need to make, where could you be in 1, 5, or 10 years? Think about that, guys. Think about where that is. When you start identifying those things, what would it look like? For those of you that played along with me on this, I thank you so much. You can open your eyes. And I just appreciate it, because this thought of taking time to think and really get connected with yourself is so powerful. And most of the top producers I know and people that have got well-rounded lives, they take time to think. And I watch most people don't take time to think. They're just going from one thing to the other, and they wonder why they're on this treadmill in every area of their life, why they don't have the peace that they want, because oftentimes they don't know what they want. I don't need to get ahead of myself here, because some of the stuff I may cover. So how many of you have ever seen this before? The growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Anybody read this book before? By Carol Dweck? Is that how you pronounce her name? Dweck? I don't know. It's D-W-E. So this is really important. So many people have what we call a fixed mindset. And let's just review a couple of these. Failure is the limit of my abilities. I'm either good at something or I'm not. And I see that a lot with younger people today. If they start something and they're not good at it, right away, they say they're bad and they don't want to do it anymore. My kid, my oldest son really moves this way. They don't like to be challenged, fixed mindset. I either do it or I can't. When I'm frustrated, I just give up. They take feedback and criticism personal. I stick to only what I know. Well, if you only do what you know, you're only going to get what you got. But a growth mindset is what I found most people that have the biggest lives. Failure is just an opportunity to grow. The key really is fail as fast as you can, because you're going to get better. I can learn to do anything I want. I learned to do Canva. You guys can see how good I am. I'm not really good, but I'm getting there. I did it, and I'm getting better. I hear people all the time like, I'm terrible at technology. Really? It's just not that hard for what we need to do in our real estate business. You just got to be willing to learn. I mean, if you're smart enough to go out and put a contract together in real estate, you're smart enough to figure out most technology that will make it happen, or somebody to help you. Growth mindset says feedback is constructive. I want feedback. How do I get better? The other is, I love this. Growth mindset says I'm inspired by the success of others. Some people, they want to feel better because other people didn't do as well. I do a lot of masterminds, and, I do challenges with other people, and we have accountability calls. And the truth is, I'm competing against them because I'm competitive. But the truth is, I don't want to win because they lost. I'm okay with them just keep going ahead of me because they're setting the bar of where I need to go. A little different with a basketball game, but the difference is, hey, if I play sports, guess what? I'm okay with losing now, as long as I gave it 100%. And I was listening to a great book this last week, and it's on inner mindset and inner core, connecting with the inner core. And he told a story about John Wooden. For those of you who know, John Wooden coached UCLA for, I think, 27 years. He won 10 titles. 10 titles. The most anybody ever else won is 5. And what it tell you, he never talked to his guys about winning. Can you believe that? He never told them about winning. What he told them was, are you being the best that you can be every day? Are you maximizing your ability day in, day out? So when we bring it to the game, you are operating at the highest level. And if you left everything on the table, you use the tools we had, and we don't win, who cares? I'm proud of you. Where are we doing that with ourselves? Where are we challenging ourselves to be everything that we can be? Because the truth is, if we're working harder on ourselves, things start manifesting themselves. And what happens is the world gets easier, and we get more clarity, and we can be excited about other people's wins. And we want to bring more people along with us to enjoy that. So this is powerful, guys. If you haven't read this book, it's super great. So let's talk about visualization. How do you like that graphic, Jeff? I love this. I was even thinking, I gotta have some women, I gotta have some men, I gotta have boys and girls. I'm like, kid. So seeing your future before it happens is one of the keys to wealth and mastery. And when again I say wealth, I'm talking all areas of your life. Let's talk about relationships, especially if you're looking for a spouse, or a partner. Have you visualized what that person would be like? And then the other side, have you visualized the changes you need to make in your life to be the type of person that that person would be attracted to? I tell my kids that, I'm like, guys, you thinking about the partner that you want to be in your life, are you the type of person that would be that person would be attracted to? What changes in your life? What ways do you need to think? What do we need to do to bring that type of person into your life? Who knows this guy? Anybody know the story about Jim Carrey and visualization? If you can, do unmute yourself, and I want you to share it with the group. Come on. Nobody knows it?
I've watched
He wrote
the
himself a
YouTube
check.
video.
All right.
There
Jeff
it
doesn't
is.
get to talk. Who's there?
Yeah,
It's
he
me,
wrote
John.
himself a.
All right,
Go for it,
Tamiko.
Tamiko.
All right, Tamiko, bring it.
Sorry, JJ. He wrote himself a $1 million check, or a $10 million check, and that's what he visualized. That was going to be his future. He claimed it. He set it out there into the universe. Sorry, guys, I'm super sick.
No,
I
that
believe
is right.
I believe he said he put a date to it before he turned 30, I believe, and that's when he got the call for the casting of Dumb and Dumber. I think that's how the story is complete.
Yeah, and it was a $10 million check, and it was written out as services rendered. And he put it out 5 years in advance. And in 5 years it came. And it was for the Dumb and Dumber, and that's why I used this picture. Now he's went on to be getting 20 and 30 million a show. Now, guys, I'm not saying that we write these checks and we're all going to make 10 million. But I can tell you, if you were to think in your life right now, and you were to think, what's in your life today that at one point was only a small dream, but you thought about it a lot, and you really focused on that at some point, and the next thing you know, it's there in your life. Almost everybody has that. So there's this saying, and up at the top here, people a lot of times say, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay. But it's really in Wayne Dyer. If you've ever read any of Wayne Dyer's stuff, Wayne was amazing. When you believe it, then you will see it. You have to see it in your mind's eye, in many cases, before it's going to arrive. You've got to see yourself as that type of person. Zig Ziglar said, the idea is that it's not so much about what you achieve, how great your career is, how great your relationships are, that's to hang your hat on. It's the type of person that you become to get there. What did you have to learn to get there? Because we all know the stories of people that got the lottery. What's the average time it takes for them to lose it all? It's a year or two. Yep, it's a year or two. For 90% of them, it's all gone. Why is that? They didn't learn the skills to be able to be the type of person that has that kind of money. So they get ripped off, they give it away, and they end up being back where they started. So, and we see that today. I see that with a lot of guys and gals that all of a sudden money comes to them very easy in their 20s and 30s. And all of a sudden at 40, they're worth a lot of money. But guess what? They didn't learn all the skills in the rest of their life, and their life falls apart. I've seen so many guys, more guys for me that I know that all of a sudden became alcoholics in their 40s when they're multimillionaires because the rest of their life fell apart. And now they're trying to rebuild. And what if they'd done the right things? One of the things that you get to guys that are older and wealthy people, and they'll say, what was the real key to making sure you made money and kept your money? I say, one is I didn't get divorced. Because, I've seen it. If you get divorced, you don't end up with half of what you had. You end up with a quarter if you're lucky. And so one of the things I'd say to folks is, y'all real estate agents, and in my buyer presentations, I worked a lot. Don't get me wrong, guys. I was an animal of working 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. But for the most part, I didn't work Sundays. And in my presentation, I'd look and say, guys, some people say real estate's their life. It's not my life. It's what I do, and I'm really good at it. I love helping people. And I'm available typically from 6, 7 in the morning till 7, 8 at night. But on Sundays, I don't work. Now, if we're in the middle of a deal, I'll negotiate that deal, but I'm not showing houses. I'm not doing this. And why is that? I said, because one is I need to have a brain to be able to think. And if I'm working all the time, I don't rejuvenate. And you pay me for a brain, not to be a body showing you houses. The other is I've learned that if I'm working 7 days a week, real estate is one of the highest divorce rates in any industry. I'm going to end up with a quarter. So that's a problem with you. Just let me know. And the husband would be like, man, I can see that, but the wife's kicking him under the table because she likes that. So think about that, guys, where we're at. So language, so critical. What are the types of words you are using when we talk to others, and more importantly, when we talk to ourselves? The language we use is so critical when it comes out of our mouths, but it's even more critical of the language we're using when we talk to ourselves, because we're listening and it's going into our mind. How can we get better about the languaging? How can we get better that we use affirmations to actually start installing into our mind how we want to be and what we want to come into our lives? Reese, are you still here? Can you unmute?
I am. Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Hi.
thank you. So Reese has created a practice of affirmations and meditation that's amazing. And she shared with me that it came at a time in her life that dramatically changed the trajectory of her life. And I wanted to take a few minutes and share your story a little bit, Reese, and how that's had an impact on you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So in 2008, I had a similar experience to what you described. I think my dad passed, and then a year later, I got a divorce, 3 kids, no child support, and ended up being in my sister's basement. I said, boy, this is just not how I want to live my life. So in 2010, I ended up, I think it was 11 actually. I ended up reading every self-help book I can get, and somehow got myself, I was in bed for a long time. I couldn't get myself out, and I had 3 kids to feed, and they were all with me. And shortly after, I just read and got myself out of bed, and eventually ended up at KW. And it was a great run of meeting great people. I met Tamika there, and Joe Sailing, who was on this call, I believe. And from there, it just, I started from scratch, just like you. It took me about 10 years. And along the way, in 2014, 15, I decided that my mindset was the most important. I realized it was the most important. I got very serious about it in 2015. I hired a coach to just help me meditate, just get a practice of, my foundation had to be around meditation every day, because I didn't even know how to do that, how to get peace in my heart, how to get out of my mind, stop the chattering. So that was 2015, 16, 17. In 2018, I incorporated yoga, hot yoga, which is another form of meditation in my life. And that has been going on for 4 years. And in 2020, I incorporated affirmations, like a high level of affirmations. I called Carolyn Hody and Aaron Rothrock. They're two top agents in our office, plus another lady who lives in Florida, top producer, like 1 percentile. I said, hey, I want to do affirmations every single day with you. So it's been 2.5 years, and we literally send each other affirmations every day. And in the affirmation, it's just like, what is the intention of the day, right? Like, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I'm abundant, I'm prosperous, my kids are healthy, and I affirm this every single day. So in 10 years, actually 8 years, I went from nothing, being highly in debt, and now I own 11 doors with a gross income of 160K a year. And it basically covers all my mortgages, all the taxes. It's not net, but I'm 52, and so I'm on a good track. And I have to say that without my affirmations and the yoga practice and the meditation, I would still be in my head chattering around, like I'm not good enough, and I'm still in my sister's basement, and how do I get myself out of this, and how do I feed 3 children? And I actually had to put 2 of them through college already, and the third one is in college. So I just have to say that today, after all this practice of meditation and affirmation, I have peace in my heart. I'm human, and I get in my head, and I have to talk myself out of it, and it's a daily practice, but I have built enough foundation that I can stop the chatter right away. It doesn't take long for the chatter to stop and get in my heart. Because once you're in your heart, you allow the good things in, right? If you have worry in your head all day long, nothing good is going to come from that.
Let me ask you a question on that, Reese. Have
Sure.
you picked up intuition through this as well?
I am highly intuitive, and I think I just blocked it for a long, long time. And in my 40s, I opened up the intuition for sure through meditation, through the affirmations, and along the way, I also changed my diet, because believe it or not, you the food that you put in your body makes a big impact. So yeah, so the intuition opened up a lot, and I went to vegan diet, which has helped the intuition. But there's just something in like other mammals is, I don't know. I'm not going to go into all of that, but the vegan diet has also helped the intuition a lot.
And why I bring that up is that, they did a study of top CEOs, and the top CEOs, many of them have what they call almost ESP. They have some form of intuition to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And at one point in the 50s, people laughed about intuition. Today, it's becoming more accepted. Just like in the 50s, people laughed about meditation. Now, most top Fortune 500 companies are teaching meditation and giving time for people to do that. And there's so many different forms. And as a Christian guy, I was taught that was sacrilege, right? It's not. It's a form of prayer. It's a form of getting in touch with God, really, And I do a couple different practices. One is I do a form of movement that is meditation, which is called Qigong. And so it's actually, and I do both, but it's a meditation through movement and slow movements and settling into your body. And I got into that because a year ago I got cancer. And, in September a year ago, I'm a sun guy. Everything I do is sun, and I've never worried about sunscreen for the most part. And we were at Build a year, well, it's not last summer, but the summer before. And my wife had finally made an appointment at the doctor for me to go. You're going, I made the appointment. Don't you love that? And they get me out, look at everything. And then he takes 2 biopsies, and I come home. My wife's like, well, how'd it go? I don't know. He took 2 biopsies. Well, when are you going to hear back? I don't know. What's the big deal, right? I'm a typical dude. And we're at the thing, and we get a call. I said, can you take it? She called, and she's like, you got melanoma and you need to be in now. And of course, I had a big golf tournament, and I really didn't want to go. So I get home, and he's like, dude, you need to cancel that and go now, because you're at a deep enough level that if it goes much longer, it's a bad deal. And melanoma, once it goes, it starts spreading. And that's the worst type of skin cancer, is the melanoma. So I went and got a cut. Some of you have seen it. It was a little tiny speck, but they cut about 6 inches on my arm. And at that point, I realized, I need to get out of the sun. But what I really realized was, I don't believe sun's the only thing that causes melanoma. And as I went to the doctor and he cut me that day, I said, Mel, is this the only reason I get it from the sun? And he said, well, I've operated on a lot of people's private parts that the sun never sees with melanoma, so there might be more to it. And my wife had been going to this Qigong master. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn Qigong because I think I need to work on the insides of my body so it can heal itself. And for the last year and a half, I've been pretty consistent with Qigong. And now it's my daily practice that there's about 20 or 30 minutes that I've done. And the other thing that I've added to it is a rebounder, which is so silly for guys. Because I remember for years, I go and see these mini rebounders. You know what they are? Mini trampoline. I think, what is wrong with these people? Man, that's not even big enough to have fun on. And then I realized what it's about is actually just clearing your lymphs by actually bouncing 5 to 10 minutes a day. It clears the stuff out of your lymph nodes, but it also energizes you. You know, if I'm not feeling good at home, I just go jump on the bouncer for 5 minutes, and it's hard not to be happy. So these are things you can be thinking about. Meditation doesn't have to be 3 hours. For some people, it's a long time, but once you learn it, you can even center yourself. Today, before this presentation, I did a quick 5-minute meditation just to center myself, to ask that I could be present with all of you guys, to ask that you guys would feel my heart and know that, and that somehow that my energy would go out and the energy from all of you would go out to each other on this big world, because I believe we're all connected. We truly are, guys. And we've seen it a million times. You know, we call somebody and like, I was just thinking about you. That's just the beginning of what's possible. When we can get centered, everything else becomes easier. And that's a little bit what Reese, you know, I remember Reese talking to me and she goes, you know, once I start doing this, I can meditate for an hour a day and I can get my job done in twice the time it used to take me. So I found the time to meditate because it didn't take as long to work anymore. And that really helped in 2018 and 19. This year might have to work a little bit more. So the power of identity. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. Think about that. How do you define yourselves? How many times have we defined how many times have we listened to our children define themselves and we're going, no, that's not who you are. You're much more than that. And sometimes we define ourselves because of the wrong beliefs about ourselves, others, and the way the world works or can work. Think about that. How were we raised? Remember me talking about my grandparents? Money's evil. You know? Oh, okay, that's how the world is to me. And of course, they didn't have a lot of rich people around them, so they didn't have any empirical evidence, but that's what they told themselves. Now, they were wonderful people, don't get me wrong. I learned so much from them. But the truth is, they struggled at the end of their lives financially. You know, they lived in, nothing wrong with living in a little house, and they had each other and they had a lot of love. But it was struggle. And I tell you, money, you can have, you know, money doesn't solve problems. Well, let's say it, money doesn't solve all your problems. But having money just makes life easier, and it makes choices easier, you know, of the choice you get to make and the people you get to help. So let's dig into this a little bit about beliefs. There are 3 types of beliefs. The first is an opinion. An opinion is a belief or judgment that falls short of absolute conviction or certainty or positive knowledge. It can be changed fairly easily because we're not that invested, right? I got an opinion about Tom Cruise, right? I've never met him. I don't know him, but I got an opinion because I'm at the grocery stand and I look at the front of the magazines, right? And I got an opinion, but I'm not really that vested in it. It'd be pretty easy to change. Now, a belief is more powerful than an opinion. It's based not only on our references from others, but on maybe some personal opinions, personal experiences. Harder to shift than an opinion. Now let's go to the next level. A conviction. It's typically a belief system we are so certain about that it'd be hard to change. usually from a personal experience, positive or negative. Convictions, we have a lot of convictions in our life that are beyond a belief that we're not even aware of. Many of those were formed because of experiences with our families growing up. And they're subconscious with us. But they are how we identify. I've heard people say, I am this type of person. This is who I am. Now, in a lot of ways, that's good. I like more like standards. People like me do this. People like us do this. But a conviction oftentimes can hold us back from the growth we need to have to experience the life we need to have. So the most successful people, so let's talk about this. To take our lives to the next level, we must be willing to let go of our convictions and look at what truly makes the most sense to support us today. And sometimes we talk about trying other people's ideas on. I'm not going to stick with it, but I'm going to go in there and think about it and see how it feels. I'm going to look at other people's lives that have what I want. And I'm going to go, okay, well, how do they think? What convictions do they have? But we really want to be at a point of sometimes we need to question our convictions. Are they working for us anymore? Because sometimes they're just built into our lives because of fear. They're built into our lives because of anger. They're built into our lives because of experiences that happen to us that don't necessarily, and we build a decision about how the world looks because of that. But when we get outside of ourselves, we realize that may not be the way the world works. Some people have a conviction that you can't trust anybody. I get that opinion. Some of you may have that. But guess what? That's a very limiting belief that holds you back. And it may be a true conviction because of something happened to you in your life. And I'm sorry if it did. There's so many, this is an ugly world and it's a beautiful world. But terrible things happen to people. And yet, there's so many beautiful people. And I feel the point is like, I trust most people. Am I stupid? No, I'm pretty perceptive. But what I feel is give them a chance to disprove that, but also be aware. And that's where we talk about intuition, starting to get a sense of, and what I found is that people are trustworthy, sense other people that are trustworthy. And I found often people that don't trust other people aren't very trustworthy. Therefore, they don't trust other people. And people that are truly untrustworthy don't like to be around people that are really trustworthy because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Because like attracts like. So let's see. This is a motto for me, guys. Fear. Where has fear played a part in keeping you from living the life of your dreams? Fear stands for false enemies appearing real. How many times have you felt like that little girl in the box? I got to tell you, during those years of 2008 to 2000, well, it was really from about 2007-ish, 7.5 through late 2009, I felt like that little girl in the box. I literally had to take anti-anxiety medicine because I didn't want to go outside of my box. It freaked me out so much. And how did I move beyond that? One step at a time. One step at a time. Have you ever heard that about growing? It's 1% improvement a day. Can you improve 1% a day? Sometimes we have massive shifts. But if we can make that one change a day, if we can attack that one fear, and move beyond that, and then it starts expanding into other areas of our lives where we feel powerful. Hey, I did that. I can do this. Who can I elicit to help me get through that fear? Who's already accomplished that I want to be around? Does anybody have a fear that they walked through recently? It's something that they could share that was a fear that they just kept holding them back. And then once they did it, they realized it really wasn't that big a deal. Unmute yourself if you have something. Nobody going to share?
I had a fear this morning that I overcame.
That's cute. Are you willing to share, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's not real estate related.
That doesn't matter. Life, right?
So I absolutely hate the cold. But I've been doing a lot of like research and seeing a lot of people doing cold plunges. And I understand the benefits of it, but I was just scared to do it. So this morning I had it, excuse my language, had the fuck it moment. And so after the gym, I came home and I took a cold plunge in my pool for 2 minutes.
How'd that go?
It was brutal for the first, I'm going to guess 30 seconds until I got my breathing under control. And then just tried to settle in, and I felt absolutely amazing when I got out.
You know, that's such a powerful, they actually say that cold plunging will, and I'm not a cold guy either, Jonathan, but I realize they've said that actually, if you can get in that water for 3 to 5 minutes, that'll actually change your state for the whole day.
Yep. Yeah, I got 2 minutes. So tomorrow
awesome.
I'm going to go for 3.
So thank you, Jonathan. You know, where else do we have fear in our lives? Fear in our relationships. Where is that we need to have that conversation we're putting off? You know, I know when I bought this building I'm in, guys, it's a 13,000 square foot commercial warehouse. I'd never bought commercial. It's pretty nervous. We ended up going through the deal, and I had some people who weren't paying. We got them out. And then I had some tenants here, and I'm like, I need to raise the rent dramatically because the rent was, you know, half of what it needed to be. And even doubling it was still going to be cheaper than the market. And I got to tell you, I didn't have the guts to do it. I kept getting scared. What if they move out? What if they, you know, what if this doesn't work? And my wife said to me, we were actually in Costa Rica and I wasn't enjoying the vacation. Can you imagine that? I'm in Costa Rica with my wife and my 2 daughters, there for 3 weeks, and I'm miserable because I'm in my head, as Reese talked about, thinking and thinking. And my wife's like, what is freaking going wrong with you? And I said, oh, I just can't get, I mean, what if they don't, well, what if they move out when I try to raise the rent and then da, da, da. And she actually looked at me and she said, okay, I get it. But what would happen if the whole unit, everything went vacant and it stayed vacant for a year? How much would that really cost us? I said, that'd be like $50,000. And there was a time in my life when $50,000 was a lot of money. But at that point, it was still a lot, but it wasn't going to change my life. And she said, would that change our lives if we didn't get tenants for a year? I said, it'd suck, but it wouldn't change our lives at all. She said, then why are you worrying? Just go do it and get it over with. Guess what? I raised the rents on them. 3 months later, I had all of the units rented, and I haven't had a vacancy. I've had a vacancy, but I haven't had a month where I didn't get paid in 4 years now. And so that little fear, and yet I've got one going on right now. I need to raise the rent on a couple of the tenants now. And there's a couple of the guys that just I'm uncomfortable with, and I don't know why, but that's something that has to happen this week. So I've been thinking
Hey,
about
John,
Chad,
not sure if
go
you're
ahead.
seeing it, but Chad has his hand up. Oh,
Yeah,
there
I
you
got
go.
it. Chad.
Yeah, I've got something that's actually really applicable, and it's here before Christmas vacation. So we're here, what, almost 3 weeks now. It's week before Christmas, I went on vacation. We went to the other side of the country and went on a 3-4 day cruise. On my very first day before we left Miami, while we were on the boat, my phone started ringing. I started getting calls, and it kind of, I mean, you want your phone to ring, but it was stressing me out because I knew that there was business and stuff that was there. One of the clients that had called and I had actually connected with let me know that, you know, he wanted to see a property. I said, you know what, I'm going to get you hooked up with somebody so that you can see this property. While we're leaving port, I actually lost cell service, and I'm in international waters. I can't call anybody. I can't do anything. Further stressed me out. Had a really poor vacation because of my mental state. But needless to say, I got back, I got sick. Literally, we're talking almost 3 weeks now. One of these clients that I've had for about 10 months, never called him. In the back of my mind going, man, I've dropped that ball. Now I've got to deal with that. Don't want to deal with it. And I didn't, and went back to normal work. I coach too. And so I'm in the middle of that. Last night, I ended up getting a Zillow tick that said that this guy is looking at another property. And I said, you know what, I got to call this guy. I got to eat, crow and deal with it. And so I called him up and said, look, man, you know what, I'm sorry, I messed up. I explained the situation, and ended up booking appointments for to meet up with them tomorrow, and scheduled 2 appointments to go check out property. And so the fear in all of that, was never really real if I just made the call, but yet because I didn't, it was ruling my life. And so that's real recent. That was just yesterday as well.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Chad. And that's something, guys, I think about almost every day. Where is fear showing up for me? Where do I need to move to doing something different? Hey guys, there was fear about doing this presentation. Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Who am I to be talking about this? I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not, these guys. Who am I? I love all these people on this call. They're super smart. I respect all of you. Man, what if they think I'm, what if I do it and they think I'm better than them? I don't want that to feel that way. And yet, you know what? I put a lot of hours in and just said, I'm going to share, and I'm going to move past it. And some are going to like it, some aren't. And that's why I shared my goals. And hopefully people know my heart. And I got to keep putting myself out there. I got to keep putting myself out there, because other people put themselves out for me, and it made all the difference. Let's go to the next here. So focus and clarity. One of the things I know with people that have really strong lives, they have really clear focus and clarity. I talk to a lot of people, and this is so true. They're wandering generalities, or are you a meaningful specific, by Zig Ziglar. I was at church the other day, and it was, first church after, it was New Year's Day, actually, right? And this young gal and guy was in front of me, and, maybe in mid-20s. And, we were shaking hands and everything. And I said, oh man, great to meet you. So what are you most excited about this year? Guess what they said? I don't know, same old, same old. And I thought, wow, that's sad, because they're going to keep getting the same old, or worse. So what are we specific about? How are we getting specific about? And I got to tell you, when I look at people that have it all, it appears nobody has it all, but are farther along than me, or where I'd like to be in most areas, they're very specific about each area of their lives. They've really targeted in what it is they're looking for in each area of those lives, what changes they need to make, who they need to get in their lives to help them do it. And they're also very clear about their goals, plans, and dreams. They have a vision that we talked about again. They're reviewing their goals on a regular basis. But more than dreams, it takes action. And I talked about that fear and knowing yourself. Oftentimes what gets in people's way is they have dreams, they have plans, but they haven't done the interpersonal work. So they're not really looking through a lens that's clear. Does that make sense? Because we don't have clarity. Now, we may have the clarity about the dreams and plans, but if we haven't done the personal work to understand how to get there, where our weaknesses and our strengths are, and where we need help, and where we're not being honest, it can be trouble getting there. And we talk a lot about dreams and vision, guys. There's still a lot of action that has to happen. Don't get me wrong. but action, not doing the right things, can be a problem. Most of the people I know that have so many things that I respect, they're personal development and training junkies. Because they realize that they don't have the answers. They're continually growing. You know, what is your yearly budget for training? One of my mentors, I saw him yesterday, he said, your yearly budget should be at a minimum of what your mortgage payment is. Your mortgage payment a month. That would be either coaches or trainings that you're going to. Do you have a mentor or a coach? I meet people a lot of times that want to become a coach and they've actually never hired a coach themselves. Really? You want to be a coach, but you've never hired a coach? Huh. Have you scheduled in time weekly? Do you have it scheduled in for reading, for going to classes, to learn? You know, I'll share a story. Maybe I just realized I was more screwed up than everybody else. But you know, when things change, I've always been a personal development guy. I've always paid a lot of money for coaching. But in 2012, I really realized there was a lot of things I wanted to learn, and I had to get myself around other people. And I was talking with an agent that was struggling, and we'd known each other for a long time. Definitely as smart as I am or smarter, works his ass off. And yet here we were 10 years later, this was in 2021, early 21. And I said, you know, and he was asking for some help. And I said, isn't this interesting? How many books do you read a month? How much have you paid in personal training in the last 10 years? He goes, well, it maybe I'll spend $1,000 a year if I'm lucky, but that's ridiculous. I don't even like spending that. How many books do you read? You know, not that many. What's the point? I know what I need to do. I said, okay, how's that working for you? Because here you are, you know, at that point, you know, nearly in his 50s, and he was struggling for money, didn't have money to get by, was struggling to pay the bills every month. And this is a guy that's smart as hell. And I said, isn't it interesting that we were both at the same place 10 years ago, broke, and I put $200,000 at least into training and masterminds, because I know I'm not smarter, I don't work harder. But who did I get around? I paid $25,000 just to be in masterminds to go around the country to learn. Because what happened? It put me in a room of people that thought differently. And I realized they weren't smarter than me. They just thought differently. And they learned things that I hadn't learned yet. And I had to learn those. So I encourage you, I'm not saying you have to spend $200,000. But for many people, they're trying to figure out how to make a lot of money and get rich. For most people, I tell you, what are you doing? I'd rather have you, if somebody said to me and they were younger and they said, I got $10,000, what should I invest in? Most of them, I tell them, go spend $10,000 on a Tony Robbins event. Because you could invest in yourself. Invest in learning what you need to learn to go to another level. And it's challenging. You know, 2 years ago, I'm going to share an opportunity with you guys on this next slide, that we did this class and it was 58 and everything was pretty good. You know, hey, we were fine money-wise. Everything was great. Jill and I were doing great. And I was like, oh, we took this little Tony Robbins class and then the opportunity to buy a bunch of these other classes. And I looked at my website. I know I want to do that, but I really don't want to do it. It's painful. My life's pretty good right now. Why do I have to keep challenging myself? Next thing I know, I have the checkbook out and it's $15,000 and I'm taking these classes. And some of the things that I'm teaching today are things that I learned in those courses that have changed my life. So think about that. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. What kind of relationships do you need to change? What relationships do you need to add? And the other is, these relationships can also be books that you read. and we can change wherever we're at. I don't know if you know these guys. This is Robin Sharma up at the top. I love Robin Sharma. He's a Canadian. He's kind of like the Tony Robbins of Canada and Europe. He's a mellower guy. He wrote the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Brendan Burchard is great out of Washington. And of course, the infamous Tony Robbins. And these are just to name a few. For some of you that are struggling with money, I'd recommend you follow Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey in my world is, he's great for the basic tools of how do you get a budget put together? How do you think about getting things paid off? What discipline do you need? Rarely are his things going to be a way to take you to make money fast and to get, but if you don't have the foundations in place, you won't be able to make it fast and keep it. So he's a great place to get started. This is a great opportunity for you guys. Tony Robbins on what dates is it? The challenge, so he's doing a 5-day challenge. I don't know what the challenge really means, but it's really about, he's doing a 2-hour session every day. Now, if you know Tony, those might be 2.5, but they're 5 days in a row for free, and it's virtual. This is the class that Jill and I took 2 years ago that really, I had a lot of preconceived ideas about Tony Robbins. I'd met him when we were younger. We're similar age. I'd been in San Diego. Maybe it's two big dudes because he's even bigger than me. But I knew some behind the scenes stuff that I didn't like. And I didn't think he was congruent at the time. And when you read his books now, he'll tell you he wasn't. But I saw him evolve, and I've seen what he's done and what he's changed and what it looks like. And he just amazed me. Really, the growth that he's had and what he'd learned from it. I've been blessed to be able to do it. For some of you that went to the Build conference, he spoke in person. I was in the front row. So I encourage you, do you see the, did you guys, Jeff, can you put that in the chat? Did you see it? Let me go back.
Yep,
Right there.
I'm on it.
Guys, you get 1,000, you get 5 free days of Tony. You don't take advantage of it. Oh man, you're missing out. So let's talk about business. How are we doing on time? Okay. I want to ask you in your business, are you a professional or are you an amateur? Think about that. Are you a professional or are you an amateur? If somebody's to come and look at how you treat your day, the things that you do, would they say you're a professional? If you were looking at your business, and I have to do this, what would I do from looking outside? I often say, if I looked at my own day, I'd probably fire myself. Right? So are you building a schedule? Now, look at what I said there. Business, do you have a schedule that you live by? Do you do the things that fit your business plan of what needed to be done? But then do you have other things scheduled in your life? Do you have the schedule for your personal development? Do you have a schedule for training? I was talking to an agent yesterday, and he's got somebody on his team, and he goes, no, he's not selling any houses. And I'm like, well, what the heck is he doing? Well, he's young. He doesn't even have any job. He's just, I'm like, well, how many trainings is he on a week? I mean, it's no excuse. And if somebody tells you that they can't do 3 hours or 4 hours of training a week, and they're not selling more than one house a month, and they don't have another job, especially this kid doesn't have children, he's not married, he's not committed. That's what you need to be measuring on. If you don't have time to talk to 10 people a day and you want to be in real estate, unless your business is very advanced, you're an amateur. You're not treating it like a business. You're not treating it like a pro. Guys, we are coming into a hard time if you're not already feeling it. And this is where I'm taking off being lovey-dovey. I've been pretty lovey-dovey. We're coming to some hard shit, guys. If you're not feeling it right now, you will. I hope you don't. But for most people, they will. This is a time where you got to get serious. You got to get serious about whether you're a professional or an amateur. You got to get serious about your schedule. You got to get serious about your work ethic. Are you really working, or are you just going through the motions? Are you doing the things that really matter? Or are you just on Facebook for 2 hours and you're liking people and thinking that's work? Are you embracing the technology and marketing that you need to learn? You know, for years, I thought it would be hard to post something with a picture to Instagram. It's not that hard. Wasn't that hard to learn Canva? Took me 2 hours. But boy, I put off learning how to put a background on a presentation for 10 years. Jeff, how many presentations have I done in 5 years together? And have I ever had a background before?
Not before
No.
this one, boss.
I'm not saying it's better, but I'm proud I learned how to do it. Are you doing what's uncomfortable? You've got to learn to be uncomfortable. If you want to create wealth, you've got to learn to do what's uncomfortable to you physically, and you have to learn to do what's uncomfortable to you emotionally. Some people have a hard time asking other people for help. You better get over that. I was on a call this week with one of my friends from Arizona. It's humbling how much money he's worth. But you know what? I talked to him. How do I need to think about doing this? How should I be thinking about doing that? Well, I just added that extra 2 million over here. You know, that's my petty cash over here. Well, I could be embarrassed because I don't have 2 million in petty cash. Oh, I'm not worthy. Or, you know, I'm nothing compared to him. But guess what? He just wants to help. That's what's amazing. Most people just want to help. The other is, are you willing to be uncomfortable to see yourself for who you truly are? Of what changes need to be made? Because when we can see that, and it's a continual process, guys, it's continual. I got to tell you, I am so screwed up. I continue to be screwed up, but I'm continuing to grow. I feel I'm a better version of myself today than I was a year ago. And the question would be, wouldn't it be great if every year we didn't recognize ourselves because we become a better version of ourselves? And if we're exactly the same as we were a year ago, we should be embarrassed. It means we're not growing. And that's what life is about, is growing and experiencing different things. And so are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to reach your goals? Because if you're willing, you rarely have to do whatever it takes. I remember Joe Stump saying that to me back in 1994. When I first got started, well, it was my 3rd year in real estate. And I really took that. He's like, if you're willing to do whatever it takes in whatever endeavor you're after, because so few people are willing to do whatever it takes. They're just willing to go part of the way. He said, but John, if you're willing to do whatever it takes, rarely are you going to have to go all to do whatever it takes, but you'll have the results. So where are you at now? Don't we all want a faucet that pushes out money? I love that picture. So let's talk about where you're at now. Let's talk about definitions. So financial security. So if you're financially secure, what does that mean? That means if you stopped working today, your passive or residual income will cover your fixed expenses. So what are fixed expenses? You know, or your basic expenses. That would be your house, your car, your insurances, your food. But it's not going to cover all your traveling, all your miscellaneous, all your entertainment. So what that means, if you are financially secure, you could just have a part-time job, sell a little bit of real estate, and everything's taken care of. So what's financial independence? If you stopped working today, your passive or residual income would cover your current lifestyle. So whatever you're spending today, that would cover that. And then we've got financial freedom. If you stopped working today, your passive residual would cover your current lifestyle plus more. And you get to define what that more is. Maybe it's jets. Maybe it's 3 houses in different countries. Everybody has a different dream. But you know, when people talk about retirement and truly retiring, it's really about cash flow, guys. So what's better, cash flow or net worth? You know, I used to think net worth was a big deal. And I'm not saying it's not. You know, if you've got a business, like most of us have a real estate business, but it's not worth anything. There's no net worth. You couldn't sell it. But it's cash flow. Because I tell my daughter, I say, you know, it only costs you, you know, a couple $1,000s a month to live. When would you be financially independent, honey? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, how much would you have to make to not have to work? Well, I guess I'd have to make more than $2 grand. Yeah. How much easier is it to create financial independence when you haven't created a huge lifestyle? Think about that, guys, because what I can tell you is when you've created time in your life, it's why the rich get richer, because they're not stressed out about money. And then they can start thinking about other opportunities come to them because they have space. They have space. My buddy that's worth about 100 million right now sold a company 10 years ago. And I said to him, how's it went since you got done with that? Do you miss it? He goes, yeah. But he goes, the reality, John, is I've made more money since then because now I have the time to really look for opportunities that I can leverage into bigger deals. Because I'm not trading hours for dollars in my corporation anymore. But what he did say to me is, he goes, John, now that I've had this money for years and I run in circles, he came back and said, big circles, he goes, what I've realized is money doesn't solve anything. You know, it doesn't solve everything. He said, you know, my daughter has health issues that I can't change. I've spent $250,000. I still have the same problems as everybody else. He says, but I've seen a lot of people in this group that you think money solved their problems, but they're on more drugs for anti-anxiety, more relationship problems. So he says, the what I really look for in my life today are not who's got the most money, but who's got the roundedness in their lives, who's got great relationships, who's kept care of their health. Because money wasn't the only answer. He goes, I was blessed with the company that did well, and he's really smart, but he says, don't be deceived. But see, people could use that the opposite way and say, well, rich people are all like this, they're not happier. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people that are very wealthy that have a lot of those other pieces together, and they're super happy, and their life is a lot less stressful. And I can tell you today, my life's a lot less stressful than it was 5 years ago. So let's go to the next here. We're almost done. So money. You need to become a student of money and wealth. You need, and guys, this is so basic. Live below our means and be slow to adjust your lifestyle up. Is Jesse Hafley on this call? I don't know if he's around.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jess, you know, you and I talked, can you bring him up on the shot, Jeff? Jesse and I have known each other for 3 years at least now. And Jesse was a kid that just always knew how to make money. But he also had a mindset that money disappeared really fast. And what did we learn? What have you learned over the last few years, Jess? That, you know, his income went from 100 to 200 to 500. And what in the beginning did you do? No matter how much money you made, were you still broke?
Totally. I think the mindset was there. I mean, I grew up super low income, so nobody in my family had made over 6 figures. So like learning the responsibility of managing that income and like how to make that money grow and the responsibility of it and changing my habits. And I mean, you can spend 150K a month just as easily as you can spend 3K a month. So.
And, you know, Jesse's worked very hard on this because so many times it's that middle-class mindset that we're doing things to impress other people.
Impress other people, or I work so hard, let me reward myself. And that's something I really respect about John is he's managed to like get that freedom as far as through your passive investments and everything. It's something I'm pushing for.
Well, for you, Jess, you know, when I met Jesse and, you know, how far behind in taxes were you? You know, how far behind, like he was stressed every month about bills and yet he was making a crap load of money.
Yeah. Having record months, but still like over leveraging myself or falling behind or relying on things. So
the idea is that if you can't figure out how to live on $150,000 a year for most people, you won't figure out how to live on 300,000. You won't live on 500,000.
Right.
Because it's easy to piss away. We've got to learn to manage that at the time. And remember what we talked about, cash flow. You know, Jesse and I have talked about that. He's kept his lifestyle fairly low. And I said, and what Jesse's done is he's worked very hard to build his reserves. We worked very hard on that over 3 years.
Right.
And today, Jess, you know, if you didn't make a commission for 6 months, you know, if you didn't make a commission, how many months could you live just off your reserves?
Right.
A year?
Yeah, a year. I could breathe. So
A year.
just a different mindset, different way of thinking.
You know, and that's if you didn't make a dime. And Jesse, you got your money put away for your taxes?
Yep. Caught up.
So what freedom is that given to you to have how you think and how the choices you're making?
That's been the biggest thing. It's like getting my ego out of the way and allowing me to like not be in survival mode, which I think a lot of people grow accustomed to. So I think that like just the change in my mindset and the way that I think about things, and it's kind of controlled, like I'm very impulsive and obsessive just in my nature, but it's kind of helped me like think of things differently and not be so like urgent or addicted to the fast money or the, oh, I just got a $25,000 commission and, you know, just kind of paycheck to paycheck, even though you're making a larger taxable income. So definitely more strategic. Chess, not checkers. That's the line that definitely changed my life. So
Chess, not checkers. And I
chess, not
guess
checkers. That's
is it
you.
feeling, you know, so as you're coming into this new year, Jesse's a big producer, but his numbers are down, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it. He's not doing as many deals. But is it stressing you out?
Not nearly as much as it would have been 3 years ago.
Yeah. But how would it have been if you kept living your lifestyle up? Because what most people do is they have 1 year they make 200, 1 year they make 300. And then what agents have a tendency to do in humans, it's never going to change. So when it's really good, we think it's never going to change. And when it's bad, we think it's never going to change. Everything changes, guys. How are we emotionally, mentally, physically, financially prepared for the changes that are inevitable? Those pieces are not easy, are they, Jess?
No, took a lot of growth and time and patience from yourself.
You know, but we all can do that. It's been a struggle, right? So let's learn about debt. How to use debt properly so it doesn't become your master. I'm sure there's some people on this call today that got debt outside of their primary residence that's become their master. That's what they think about all the time. It's what's running their lives. Sometimes that's credit cards. You know, one of my friends, Hank Evix, always talks about realtors paying taxes. And I said to him one day, well, how many agents are really behind on taxes? And he says, how many do you think? And I said, I don't know, maybe 2 out of 3 out of 10. He said, John, it's at least 7 out of 10 are behind on their taxes. And then he said, I said, well, what about superstars? He said, they're probably worse. Probably 8 to 9 are behind on their taxes. And what does that create in their lives? And as I've talked to more and more top agents, it's more and more true. It's more and more true. So the key to wealth, there's a couple of things with keys to wealth. One, we have to learn how to use other people's money to leverage once we've got our foundation set. Number 2, we need to understand the power of compounding, compound interest, compound leverage in the right ways. We need to understand asymmetrical risk. It's a little higher term. Then the next is we need to understand taxes. The number 1 miracle of money in the world is compound interest. The number 1 worst thing in the world is taxes. You guys heard that story before about if you take $1 and double it every day, how many millions it's worth? Well, if you take that $1 every day and pay 28% taxes on it before it turns, it ends up being under 100 grand. That's how significant it is. So I've given you a lot of pieces. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie. None of this is easy. Life isn't easy. But we have to get really clear about what's important. We have to set the foundation so we get clarity. We need to put the right people in our lives to help us see what we're not seeing. We have to find people to be accountable with. We need to recognize where our strengths are and spend time there. But then we also need to figure out where our weakness is and where we can get help to do it for us or where we can learn. And guys, remember, I'm an old man for most people on this call. on my way to 60. Most of you are younger. You've got a lot of time, but you don't want to wait to get started. Because imagine if you could have financial freedom and independence at 35 or 40. Jesse and I have been talking a lot about that, is that, you know, he's 25 years old. What would it look like if he had cash flow of $10,000 a month, residual, in the next 2 to 5 years? $10,000 a month coming in, whether he goes to work or not, guess what? He has freedom. And then how much time could he spend on things he loves? For those of you that are older, realize that if you do the foundational work, 10 years ago, I know my total net worth was under $100,000, and that was in a 401k. I had one rental property that was upside down. And what 10 years can do with focused effort, good economy doesn't help, doesn't hurt. But you know, I always say everybody else was in here and they had the chance to buy all the rentals and to do things I did too, but they didn't. So opportunity comes and goes. It's a matter of whether you're prepared and you're willing to take those steps, and how many times you've fallen and realize where the opportunity is. So don't think that the opportunity is over for you. The future is bright, guys. The future is bright. We may be struggling through an economy for the next 6 months to a year, but guess what? Everything changes. Everything comes in seasons. There's always going to be winter. There's going to be spring. There's going to be summer, and there's going to be fall. That goes in your personal lives. That's in your health. I had a tough year last year. We had a lot of winter with my family, with the deaths of my parents and the things that we had to deal with. But guess what? It's spring again there now. And it's going to be spring for you guys. Just go and work on what you need to do. So let me see the last piece here. In the end, money is not good or bad, guys, nor is it a measure of a person's overall wealth. It's just a tool that, if we learn how to use correctly, can enhance the quality of our lives and the ones we love. If I'm going to be unhappy, I'd rather be unhappy rich than broke. Because you can be unhappy broke and you can be unhappy rich. But let me tell you, it's easier when you don't have to worry about money. So all these things can come together. Realize, where do you need to become a student in each area of your life? Where do you get clarity and focus? And know that it's just a journey for all of us. And most people that have it have screwed up, and they're not any better than you. They just got clarity around what they're going to do and what they're willing to learn. Thank you so much. Wow, 10:30 exactly. Wow.
That was amazing. Someone did such a great job, and we got so much out of it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks, John.
Hey, John, Leanna has a question there in the chat that she posed, and I don't know if she's willing to repeat it. Leanna, are you able to unmute?
Yes, hi. This is serendipitous, as life always is. I just reached out to our group that Heather Rich has of Agent Illuminate, and said I had a question, and she said, come join this meeting. And I don't know why I haven't been on these before, and just a plethora of speaking my language and so much amazing information and very motivating. And then I go, okay, I'm going to get up. What do I do? Like, where do you start?
In terms of, what do you mean? What do you mean start? What, are you talking about starting and building a real estate business? You talking about getting in shape? You talking about relationships? What do you mean?
I that's the whole thing is there was so much powerful information that touched on all of the different things. It's like my husband and I have been in real estate for 5-6 years now. We're doing well. But there's always, like you said, there's always a ton of room to improve. But where do you start?
I'm going to give you.
Oh, yeah.
Let me answer, and then we get some feedback on that, guys. I'm going to tell you just overall in life. Everybody on this call should take that Tony Robbins event in January. Because when you get 10 hours of Tony to 12 hours over a 5-day period, I would block that in my calendar. That is a doctor's appointment. Nothing gets in the way. Trust me, clients will work around your schedule. I always say to people, oh, I had to go show a house. Bullshit. If you had a doctor's appointment, you wouldn't have canceled that doctor's appointment. You would have scheduled around it. And I hear realtors all the time. Oh, you know, my wife needed me to take the dog to the vet, so I couldn't make it. Well, then it wasn't a priority to you. Here's my intensity guys level, right? So that's the first thing I'd be doing, right? And then I would get really clear about what my goals, dreams, and plans are. And if you're making money right now, one of the things you should do, and people say, well, the economy's going down, I'm making less money, I shouldn't hire a coach. Now's the time to hire a coach. Now's the time to actually take $6,000, depending on what your life looks like. Now's the time you need a coach more than ever. And coaches will help you give clarity. So unfortunately, I don't know where your whole, everything about you, I don't have enough, how would I say it? I can't give you a prescription because I don't really have enough information. But what I can tell you is the first step might be is doing that Tony event. I would start picking up some classes. Where do you feel you need your help? What do you need help on? Is it my mindset that's getting in my way? Is it my habits that are getting in my way? Is it my health that's getting in my way? And go read some books. Go on some podcasts. There's so amazing podcasts today. You know, or, you know, if you're, you know, if you can get Heather's time, go sit down with Heather. Hope that's helpful.
I want to chime in. Can I chime in here, John?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So first, I'm going to be at the Ike Box today at 1:30 to 3. If anyone wants to come pick my brain, I'll buy you coffee. But what I wanted to say is something. Leanna's one of my bestest friends, and I love her dearly. One of the things that I have said to her, when you're a highly successful agent and you're that busy, you tend to unplug from your support systems. And then you find yourself at this time of year in January, you're like, I don't have a lot going on. I don't know where to start or where to begin. The first place you start, you guys, is plugging into the places and people that support and inspire you. This CORE90 every single week. My group, we have a weekly huddle, which we have changed the name of as of today to our weekly mastermind that we plug into every single week. But you start with getting yourself in front of the people that are going to help you grow. Leanna, I love her dearly, but Leanna and Trevor are busy and they don't get to plug in so often. So maybe making that a priority this time. Because I know every time she's come to these, she's like, oh my gosh. And she calls me or texts me after and says the inspiration and learning that she's had. But start there. Start there by putting those. You had said in one of your slides, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? They're here. These are your people. And this is where you need to start. And further, everybody needs a different prescription. Everybody starts in a different place. John, you're so right. So if I were to sit down with Leanna today, what I would be telling her would be very different from what I would be telling Jessica or Jeff or Deborah. That hiring a coach, honestly, I haven't done that myself. I've never hired a coach. And honestly, here at EXP, we have coaches available for free right now. So if you're not able to hire a coach, just showing up at these opportunities is huge. You could get a mentor. You could get a hold of a certified mentor and sign up with them. Even if you are an experienced agent, you could plug back in with a mentor. I have experienced agents do that with me all the time. But start with the people. That's my thought. I feel really strongly, obviously, about. Got a little pumped up today, John.
Good.
Awesome. And you did incredible. And by the way, every time you speak, I am going to be there. I cannot be at Tony's thing though, John. I have surgery on the 24th. No one
talks the 25th, the 26th, 27th, 28th, 5 days.
Well, I've been told I'm not supposed to talk to people or look at contracts for at least 48 hours.
Good, then you won't have to look at the contract. You can just watch the video, right? It's just on your TV. It's on your TV, guys. So you got no choice. Yeah, that's a perfect.
I'll put it on in the hospital. Jessica, come and turn it on for me if I don't know what the switch looks like.
You got your. Hey, Mike, do you want to share something, buddy?
Honestly, I was just going to say thank you. Heather hit on pretty much what I was going to say. I think you mentioned it too. The perfect starting point is knowing your goals. Like you said, you don't know the prescription for everybody because you don't know our personal goals, but everything you provided today was absolute fire, man. And I just wanted to say thank you. And you guys touched it there at the end.
You know, guys, it's a journey. And I would say, you know, thanks, Mike. I'd say it's a journey, right? So it's funny how I talk to people and that some of my top agents, and they don't have time to get on this call. And they're leading teams. And I'm like, why aren't you having your team on this? This is simple. This is a way to, it's not that you're going to get something out of it every time. So, but guess what? I find just by slowing down, and that's what we talked about, slowing down. Just by slowing down to be sitting here and listening, all kinds of thoughts come to me when I'm not the speaker about different things I'm working on, different things that are important, different connections, who I can talk to, what I need to do. So I find that this is so valuable for me. You know, we've had a couple calls recently on gratitude and energy. Those are so powerful. And, you know, just of like simple stuff and learning from each other and building connections. And, you know, as we have some of these events, we talk more, there's more people interjecting. I had so much to cover today. And but, you know, you learn who's struggling on the same things. Who do I connect with? Who can I reach out? Who could be an accountability partner? You know, if you're struggling making those 10 calls a day, who's 2 or 3 people that you guys could set up a bond with each other that we're going to do that? And you can set up games. You know, you put $100 all up, and if you don't make your calls for the week, you got to give the $100 to the charity you most don't like. Can't give it to a charity you like. You have to give it to a charity you don't like. Otherwise, it's easy. So there's so many things we can do. So I encourage you guys, it's the beginning of the year. I want to tell you, put your personal development plan together. Put your plan together for business. If you have questions about it, you figure it out. If you want to schedule a time with me, I'll be happy to. We can schedule a time, we can talk. Find your mentors around this group, find people that are farther along than you in different areas, and make it happen. It's up to you. Nobody else can do it for you. But if you become the person that wants to change and wants to grow, and then is willing to do the work, because I tell people, I only work with people so long. Like, if you're not doing the work that you said you're going to do, then what's the point? But if you're willing to grow, you're going to have so many people in the community that are willing to help you do the work. And I guess what? When you do action, imperfect action is better than no action. And when you do that enough, you get better. We're done.
I gotta
Jeff.
say, John, that was absolutely amazing. If you guys don't understand why John Sellers is one of the top agents, top coaches, and top producers in this company, you do now. I just gotta say, or you weren't conscious on this call. John, thank you, my man. One of my very first real estate coach, by the way, John Sellers. So obviously knows what he's doing. I am freaking blown away by you, my man. You are incredible. Thank you for being here, and thanks for your heart. Love you, brother. All right, guys.